Today I'd like to speak about something that I recently discovered that I think might be of interest, and it raises some very intriguing questions too, in terms of discrimination and fairness and equity, those types of issues. And it's about tribal colleges and universities. Most Native American high school graduates do not attend or graduate from college. The TCUs, or tribal colleges and universities, are funded and run by Native Americans. There are 3.9 million Native Americans living in the United States, so quite a substantial number. In the TCUs, there are 30,000 students, mostly, but not entirely, Native Americans, because although the primary emphasis is on Native Americans, they're open to other students as well. The median tuition is $3,572, which those of us who are aware of college tuitions look at that and say that is a bargain. There are 35 accredited TCUs in 13 states, including Montana, Arizona, Oklahoma, North and South Dakota. They're run as nonprofits. They can be run by a single tribe, sometimes a coalition of tribes, and sometimes by the federal government. Their mission is to teach indigenous languages, indigenous history, and culture. So to keep the culture of the Native Americans and the tribes alive in our day and age, very important mission. They offer associate degrees and certifications. 22 have only baccalaureate programs. 9 have master's programs. Navajo Technical University offers a doctorate in Diné Studies in 2024. Diné is another term for Navajo. Most are located on rural American Indian reservations with high unemployment and poverty rates. And unfortunately, there are few available jobs. So the situation on the reservations is very difficult. The funding comes mostly from the federal government and some from philanthropic organizations as well. What are the problems with the TCUs? The problems are the cost, the poor high school preparation that many of the students have, and the fear of assimilation into Western culture in terms of losing their identity as Native Americans. Very important concern. The treaties that have been signed by the Native Americans and the federal government indicate that it is the responsibility of the federal government for education of the Native Americans. In 1978, the Tribally Controlled Community College Assistance Act stated that the federal government would regularly help to fund these schools. So there was a commitment from the federal government to fund the schools at that time in 78. The percentage of Native college graduates rose 125% from 1990 to 2020. So certainly a good thing that more Native Americans are graduating from the colleges. 4.5% of Native students living on reservations received a college degree in 1990. And of course, this would not include Native Americans who are living off reservations. 10.3% in 2020. So you can see the increase in those 30 years from 4.5 to 10.3, significant increase. And the source for that information is the Harvard Kennedy School September 2025 report. In the general population, in 1990, so this would be everybody in the U.S., 20.3% graduated from college. And in 2020, 30 years later, that figure rose to 34.3%. So we can see when we compare the Native American population living on reservations with the rest of the country, you can see a 24-point percentage difference in terms of the number who attend college. These colleges are chronically underfunded. Congress agreed to give tribal colleges $8,000 for each Native student. It has not lived up to this. Tribal colleges receive $250 million less than the government pledged. So right there you have a significant problem. $250 million less is certainly going to greatly impact these schools. And the concept is, well, this is what the government pledged. Why isn't the government coming through with what they pledged, what they said they were going to do? And again, this would raise the whole equity issue. Are we treating Native Americans in an equitable fashion, the way we should be treating them? We look back on our original history with Native Americans and treaty violations and all sorts of bad things that were done, certainly not a good picture. But here you have an opportunity to kind of turn that around, to fund these schools, to build them up. Why are we not taking advantage of that opportunity and moving things in a better direction? After I looked into it and read this research, I was like, we have a problem here. Why aren't we doing this? The Trump administration in the spring of 2025 cut the budget for the Bureau of Indian Education from $183 million to $22 million. And this Bureau of Indian Education is part of the Department of the Interior. So why was this drastic cut to education by the administration? On the other hand, the Department of Education is making a $495 million investment in historically black colleges and universities and TCUs. So how this will play out in terms of funding for the TCUs, of course, remains to be seen. It stated that this was going to happen. It has not happened yet. We'll see if it does happen and how it impacts the TCUs. And if this does come to pass and they get a significant amount of money, this certainly would help them. But the alarm is that why was so much cut from the Bureau of Indian Education? Certainly not a good sign. TCUs focus on business development, and it is interesting that every federal dollar invested returns $1.60 in tax revenue. The source for that is the September 2025 report from the American Indian Higher Education Consortium. So you are kind of paying for it, and then you're getting all this money back. So in a way, it is a good investment for the country to put money into the TCUs. TCU alumni generated $3.8 billion in added income to the national economy from October 2022 to September 2023. So you look at a figure like that and say, well, they're generating more money for the economy. Isn't this a good thing? In doing this research and discovering these facts about TCUs, which I must confess, totally unaware of that they even existed, I kind of paused and said, well, isn't this a consistent problem that we seem to have in terms of discriminatory practices? Why wouldn't we live up to our commitment to Native Americans? It seems like we as a country do not have a good history in terms of observing treaties, but when we make legislation, we say we're going to give a certain amount of funds to build these TCUs up and to help Native Americans achieve a higher standard of living and improve the quality of life on the reservation. You would think this would be a good thing, a good path to follow. It's unfortunate that we have not followed it, and we must keep track now and see if this $495 million investment from the Department of Education will really go to the TCUs and help to build them up. Because certainly the debt that we owe to our Native Americans, as we know from our history, is a significant one. And anything we can do to reverse that course and do a better job with building up the people in that community, certainly that would be a positive thing. God bless.